Adam Scott. Bring back some more information from Adam Scott. Some quotes here. And this is on bringing back LIV golf players to the PGA Tour. He said, quote, "I wouldn't be surprised or I wouldn't judge anyone, the members, if reunification happened and they weren't happy with how it happened. I hope they're not spending as much time talking about it as I have. I wouldn't hold it against anybody if there were negative emotions attached to it, the thought of players coming back." All right, now there is a PGA Tour event that kicked off, the Mexico Open at Vedanta World, and it kicked off today. Our Damon Hack is on the grounds in Mexico, and yes, there's a lot of buzz, I'm betting, as players were signing their cards from that morning wave, Damon. And a lot of these players will be affected by the news that we think is going to happen pretty soon, that the PGA Tour and the Public Investment Fund have reached an agreement. Have you had a chance to talk to some of those players?
I have, Todd. The news of this White House meeting filtering slowly through the players here at Vedanta World. And the players I spoke to trying to strike a balance between focusing on their own games inside the ropes and focusing on the impending news outside the ropes. Striking a balance between wanting unification for the good of the game, but also knowing that that unification might be fewer pathways for them. Post-round, I spoke to Sam Ryder and Joel Damon.
I guess I don't know. I just hope that I keep having tee times on the PGA Tour, and I'm going to show up wherever they let me show up. And I hope that they'll have a great lunch at the White House, and they all shake hands at the end.
Yeah, I think just as a fan before a player, you know, someone that loves the game of golf, I just hope it kind of helps move, you know, us forward, I guess, as a game as a whole, not necessarily just looking at the PGA Tour's perspective. So, you know, obviously getting the president involved, he's very influential, and but we'll see. I mean, I think the fans generally are, you know, want to see the best players in the world competing against each other. And look, whether that involves me or not, I think for the game as a whole, I think it's important to, you know, get some of the greatest, you know, top 10, top 50 players in the world playing more golf together.
Distracting to you these last couple of years? Are you able to compartmentalize and kind of go about your business?
Yeah, I think I did a pretty good job of just kind of staying in my own little world and focusing on the things that I can control. And, you know, there was definitely a lot of drama going on around it, but, you know, I still feel very lucky to do what I do, and I've kind of tried to keep that perspective.
You know, Todd, for some reason it's become fashionable to poke fun at a field like this in terms of the field strength. Only 4 of the top 50 in the world here. Only 2 major champions in this field, in Padraig Harrington and Francesco Molinari. But make no mistake, for the players at the Mexico Open, this is their Masters. This is their Players' Championship. To know that weeks like this can be a huge opportunity to parlay a strong week into more weeks on the PGA Tour, or perhaps even pulling a Jake Knapp as the UCLA Bruin did 1 year ago.
Yeah, and I want to follow up on that, Damon, if you don't mind. I mean, this is a regular season event. If a player comes and wins this tournament, and he's not already in the signature events, and these signature events are huge for players. I mean, you get 700 FedEx Cup points if you win. Obviously, there's more money, so there's an opportunity to really elevate your career. As I mentioned earlier, there are fewer spots to smaller fields on the PGA Tour, and now with these players that are playing there in Mexico, here comes the real possibility of LIV guys coming in and playing on the PGA Tour and taking away spots. Look, Joel Damon and Sam Ryder are veterans, and they were very diplomatic in their conversation with you, but do you feel like the intensity and the anger will build amongst members there, especially those competing in that field?
I think it will, Todd. There's a great sense of anxiety that I'm feeling among the players. And, you know, we're so close to where they're staying. We're at the same hotel. I'm riding water taxis with a lot of the players from the hotel to the driving range. So I've been having conversations even before this news came out. There's a sense of stress and the possibilities. You know, I talked to Joe Highsmith on the boat ride over. He's well aware of the narrowing pathways and the value of a week like this for a young player from Pepperdine, and knowing that you might play this week and maybe not get to play for a couple more weeks. And when they're hearing, you know, the likes of Rory McIlroy and some of the best players in the world talk about smaller fields and these elevated signature events and these national opens, I get the sense that a lot of the players in this field know that that's code for this does not include you. So a week like this, though, can change a lot of those things for these players. But make no mistake, they know what's at stake this week and how valuable a week like the Mexico Open at Vedanta World is for them and their future.
All right, Damon, we will hear from Damon a lot more throughout the day and throughout the week at the Mexico Open at Vedanta World. You know, it's interesting hearing Sam Ryder there. Obviously, there is a view you can take from 30,000 feet up in the air, and the fact that, yes, this fracture has hurt the game. We have lost some fans, but yes, bringing LIV guys to play with the PGA Tour guys more often will hopefully increase the audience. But at the same time, you may be sacrificing opportunities. I mean, what kind of energy do you think you're going to hear from players like Sam Ryder and Joel Damon?
I think a lot of that is going to depend, Todd, on exactly whether the involvement of LIV players going forward is additive or instead of. Does the addition of 3 or 4 or 5 LIV guys in certain PGA Tour events diminish the opportunity for other guys? Is it taking away spots from anyone? And I'm not necessarily sure the Tour will go down that road anytime soon. But it's just evidence that there are so many constituencies that will ask questions, regardless of what the terms of the deal are. And that's not just limited to the golf world. I think, you know, this regulatory review process that's been going on for well over a year, there are going to be people outside the golf world who ask, did that review run in an appropriate manner? Because the Tour will tell you that a decision, a green light, could have come at any point in the last few months of the Biden administration. It could have come at any point in the first few months of the Trump administration by perfectly appropriate means. There will be people asking, was that review hastened, or was it short-circuited or bypassed in some way? And it's also very obvious that Donald Trump is nothing if not transactional. So there will be questions asked by people inside and outside of golf. Was there a quid pro quo in some way of Donald Trump's involvement beyond the fact that he's obviously a passionate golfer? But is there a quid pro quo at play as well? There's no evidence of that, but that's a question that's going to be asked at some point as this process moves on. But the obligation they're all under at this point is whatever they announce, they've got to turn it around and say, what's in it for the fans? Because the fans have clearly voted with their feet and drifted away from this game over the last few years. And we've heard a lot about what's in it for players, what's in it for administrators. We haven't heard much about what's in it for fans, and that's the obligation that's on the Tour, to show what the fans are getting from this.
Yeah, I want to bring Rex Haggard back in, who, of course, has been reporting on this story and this meeting that's been, it's been close to 3 hours that they have been meeting. It started at noon Eastern. Again, the principals there, Yasser Al-Rumayyan, who is the governor of the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia, PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan, Tiger Woods, and Adam Scott, who are player directors for the PGA Tour Policy Board, and the President, Donald Trump. How long do you think this meeting will go? And actually, Rex, what are you expecting from that meeting today?
Well, I think the meeting is probably close to getting wrapped up from what I've been told. I think as far as expectations go, you kind of went into this with an open plate. The idea being that the president has stepped in, as you pointed out. He initiated this meeting and trying to get to whatever the goal line is. And that's the ultimate goal, is to reunite the game, to put it all under one umbrella, as they say. I don't know how close we get with this meeting, but it's certainly a good first step. Anybody that's involved, you go back to last week at Torrey Pines when Rory McIlroy spoke about it, and Adam Scott, who was also in the initial meeting, and Jay Monahan, the commissioner of the PGA Tour. There was a level of optimism there that I don't think any of us have seen in a while. So the idea is that you can get some sort of deal done now that the president is involved.
Well, we shall see if there is an agreement announced today. Who will announce it? How we will learn, be it statement, press conference, a tweet, who knows. But we will continue to follow all the happenings. Again, a big meeting today at the White House initiated by the President Donald Trump. Rex Haggard, Damon Lynch, we appreciate your insights as always.